Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit GetVaccineAnswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's been difficult because I hadn't been able to see my grandchildren.
An expression on someone's face when you do something nice for them.
I miss all my friends in school.
Visit GetVaccineAnswers.org so you can make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccine.
The Sweet and Smoky Salmon Rub infuses smoked black pepper with dehydrated maple syrup, pink Himalayan salt, ginger, thyme, mustard, and more to make a sweet, savory rub, perfect for salmon, trout, and other delicate seafood.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU. HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No. 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment. Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm returning to Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Hello and welcome to another live edition of the ONG Strike Zone. Brian Fulford, that's Kelvin Rozier, that's Kofi Hemingway. It's a pleasure to be on with you here on this Thanksgiving Eve, and we have so much to be thankful for. So and most thankful for you guys who are watching us, you who have been faithful in taking time out to watch us, whether it's live or on replay, sharing it in the chat rooms, retweeting, making the contributions and contributing to this project. We are thankful for you. Kelvin, how are you doing? What are you most thankful for this season?
Well, I'm doing great, man. I'm most thankful for, I think what we all be thankful for: life, health, family, friends. Everybody's, I'm blessed right now. My family and friends are blessed. It ain't perfect, but we here, buddy, and and we got another chance on the other side, on this side rather. So I'm blessed and I'm happy for life.
Amen. Amen to that. Kofi, how about you? How you doing? How you feeling? What are you thankful for?
I'm in full agreement with my brother Kelvin, man. I mean, when you have life, when you have health, when you have strength, and you have the intellectual capacity to realize that somebody does not have it, that somebody has less, you begin to be grateful and thankful for the things that you do have. And I'm grateful for that. I am so grateful for that. And I'm excited about the future for myself, for UR, and for Florida A&M University.
Amen. Amen. Want to encourage you, if you're watching us in the YouTube or on the Facebook chats, go and hit that thumbs up button, the like button. Let us know in the chat rooms what are you most thankful for this upcoming season, of course. And so we have a lot to be thankful for, Rattler Nation. We do, and so this will be a fun show. It won't be without its controversies or issues and complaints, but we're not gonna start the show that way. We're gonna start the show talking about how thankful we are about the good things. So this first segment, before the first commercial break, nothing but the positive news, the good stuff, because we got victories, we've got championships, we got plenty of good stuff to talk about before we get into stuff that we're not happy about. So segment one, we're going to start with the big weekend. We call affectionately Saturday, November, let's see, what day was that? November 19th? November 19th, 2022 will be known as Beat a Wildcat Day. That'll be for at least for the next 364 days. Beat a Wildcat Day, because that's what we did in two different cities. We not only in Orlando, but then we did it out in Houston, Texas, as not only our FAMU football team won their game, Florida Classic, of course, but then our volleyball team out in the semifinals of the SWAC tournament defeated Bethune-Cookman to win that. So we're going to start with the Florida Classic. Plenty to talk about. We were all in attendance. Thanks to those that we saw, that shouted us out, that recognized us. Always a blessing from that respect. So let's kind of go around the horn and kind of talk about what we liked, because I think there were so many positives, and I think you all have said it, that Saturday's game was probably our best game. I heard Coach Simmons say that. Even Kelvin, I made sure to tweet it out because we were as giddy as them little kids that walked into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, man. Because that first half was about as good a FAMU football as we'd seen all season. And hey, that's what you want to see. At the end of the season, through all of the ups and downs, you want to see your team playing well and playing in their best form. And that's what I thought we had. And so, Kelvin, I'll start with you. Your big takeaways from Saturday's win.
Well, the first thing I want to do is talk about the tailgate action I had the blessing to be a part of. I was with Leon Pitts of Piston Sounds, and man, he had it set out, man. Very nice tent. Man, they had collard greens, potato salad, chicken ribs, fried fish, fried chicken. Man, it was A1. Had great music and man, I thoroughly enjoyed the company and especially the food. I I didn't need that little Chick-fil-A that they didn't want to bring to us in the box because I was good. So shout out to him. Now, in terms of the atmosphere, the attendance, I want to speak on that. I thought it was good. You got club level. The setup is a little different now. On all the end zones, it's pretty much bowled in now, so the capacity is a little higher in the stadium than it was. And for the most part, 55,000 plus is what the second largest crowd this year for FCS.
Is that what the
Next to
official
Alabama
attendance
A&M,
was?
Alabama State, right?
Yeah, that was the official number. I never saw the official number anywhere in print. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
heard a
it was,
couple.
it was 55,000 plus. So
937.
that
Okay.
so that was good, man. It was a good showing. I was surprised, honestly, to see how many Wildcats fans were there. Of course, they still was outnumbered 2-1, but they did have a good representation. Though they fans came out and supported their team, so that's always good, man. That was a good showing. Now the game itself, I was extremely happy and satisfied, of course, with that first half. We led 27-7. We did a lot of the things I think we've been complaining about all year in that first half, right? We kind of stuck with the wrong. We was creative with our play calling. Musa didn't have really no bad throws where it should have been picked or he read something wrong. As a matter of fact, for the game, he was what 15 of 19, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So he was really efficient, and that first half was a thing of beauty, man. And then of course it got started again with the defense. Couple of turnovers, takeaways early, and that was done without Isaiah Land playing or General Hunt. I think we have our pass rushers for next year. I think we know who they are.
Yes.
And we have more than two, as a matter of fact. So that was a good sign, man. Then coming into the third quarter, we just didn't have the ball much. We had a 3 and out, and in both BCU drives in the third quarter, there were some penalties, untimely penalties that kept drives alive, and a couple of third down conversions where the defense didn't get off the field. And for me, that was more credit to BCU than it was our defense. They came out after halftime. They competed. They made some adjustments. They showed some pride and some fight. And then toward the end of the third, fourth quarter, our Rattlers responded and put the game away, separated. And I thought that fake punt call by coach was just masterful. Didn't see it coming. Perfectly timed, very well executed. And then the throwback to Musa for the touchdown. Again, the timing of it, where we were in terms of field position, it just made all the sense in the world. And then we talked about throwing to the tight ends. We had a tight end that only had 3 catches the whole year.
Yeah,
And you bring him in
he
and run a
almost
play
doubled.
for him and
Almost doubled his career yardage on one play.
Yeah. So I thought I have to get offensive coaches, defensive coaches, special teams, the whole team. It was a complete game, and when I like to be honest and criticize when it's deserving, and then I also have to get a praise when it's deserving. And I thought everybody from the players, coach, sports staff, everybody affiliated with the team, really was on point Saturday, and it was a great victory for those Rattlers.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Kofi, your thoughts on the game?
Rattler! Yes, sir. So all day, man, I want to echo my brother's sentiments. I thought it was a very solid performance. from the men in orange and green. Every aspect of the game, you saw bright spots from every aspect of the game. First, I want to say the uniform, the all-white uniform with the white helmets, just clean.
Clean.
And we're undefeated in the darn white helmets. Go figure, right?
Wow.
So then, we're undefeated in the white helmets. So then, on top of that, I want to say Musa had a much better game. He was very efficient with his passes and with his throws. His ribs got hurt because I was wondering what in the world, because I want to see Ja'Cory, but I want to see Ja'Cory under the right circumstances. But, everybody was like, well, is Musa like, what is, at first I was like, is he going out for something? But then I just waited and then, found out that Musa's ribs got hurt. So he had to sit out a series, but Musa came back and did not miss a beat. So that was one. The second aspect of just talking about offensively was I never really felt like Bethune could stop us. If we stopped, it was because of our own ineptitude and play calls and just stuff that, was out of character, just makeable plays that we chose not to go for it on fourth. I think if we are real aggressive and we go for it on fourth down repeatedly, I do believe that we probably could have converted, but that's neither here nor there because I felt like we played a great offensive game. I want to say the commitment early on, obviously, the three plays that stood out for me on offense was one, seeing Musa under center twice. Okay. Under center twice was great because on both of those plays that he was under center, we scored. One on a running play and the other was on a pass play. So our third down conversions were excellent. Obviously, the double pass from Xavier to Musa was amazing. The pass to the tight end to Gross was also amazing. Now, let me get over on the defensive side of the ball because my man, number 53, the transfer from Marshall, was straight up killing it. I mean, he was like, Isaiah and General Hunt didn't even play in the game. And this guy came in, and I'm like, 53 is killing him. Like, 53 is coming off the end, and there was like an explosion. He was always pushing his guy back and off of the ball. He was always around the football. Anthony Dunn is a straight up beast, and he's got 3 more years. Look at your neighbor and say 3 more years. 3 more years. 3 more years. 3 more years.
3 more years.
Yeah. 3 more years. Look at your neighbor and say 3 more years. Yeah, he got 3 more years. That brother there, bro, if he keeps this and he keeps progressing, and whoo, that was a gem. That was a great find. And the fact that there was no drop off and the whole defensive line, again, big number 90 in the middle. It was like we didn't really miss a beat with that. Isaiah Major was typical black. I call him Black Chucky because he looked like a Chucky doll. He got them big cheeks and everything, so I call him Black Chucky. But Black Chucky was killing him. Again, he's always around the football. He be knocking people down and just playing very aggressively. And I want to say, just really on special teams play, this is the first time that we've had block kicks or block field goals in consecutive games in forever, ever. I can't tell you the last time that we've had special teams play with multiple blocks, even in a freaking season. In a season.
Shout out to Coach Chili Davis. Yep.
Chili Davis did that there. And just the fact that the hit that Mr. Griffey had on my man on special teams was just straight up dynamic. That was one of the biggest hits I've seen outside of Marquise Bell. One of the biggest hits I've seen since that. It reminded me of that Southern game back in 1999 when that kid from Southern came off the ball and But the only difference is the BCC dude just actually held on to the ball, because I was waiting for that ball to come out and for somebody to be running for a touchdown. I was like, okay, well, he got a little swag to him. He held on to it. But just from a complete game, it just really blessed my soul to see Musa under center and to see play action in the play, and the fact that Xavier Smith was wide. I want to say wide, but wide open. Just wide open down the field, and Musa had the time. That was the play that Musa actually got hurt on. But the pass was just on the money. The catch was on the money, all of that. And let me just say this about the Florida Classic. Listen, sir, the aroma was in the atmosphere for miles and miles. And I talk about the HBCU experience, but part of that HBCU experience is the aroma that is in the atmosphere when you approach an HBCU game. I've been to a Florida State game and they tailgate, but it don't smell like that. I've been around Clemson football and they got some pretty decent tailgate, but it don't smell like that. It's only at an HBCU that you smell that mullet coming out the grease, the catfish coming out the grease with the multiple seasonings. Then they had the turkey wings, the turkey legs. Then they had the grilled, oh my God, the ribs, the chicken, the macaroni and cheese, the collard greens. Oh, bruh, they was going in. And of course, the thing that really sets the Florida Classic apart is the conch and the conch fritters. You can't get that outside of Florida. You're not gonna get conch fritters anywhere else but Florida. And that's the thing that really set it apart right there. It's the fried conch. You ever had one, Brian?
I have. But I have had one. Yes, only when I came down to Florida, because prior to that I didn't know what it was. You're right.
I'm trying to tell you. You get you some conch fritters in the right batter with the right sauce. It's good. And the vendors were just amazing. They're everywhere. There was so much variety and just the fellowship. There wasn't any anger, no malice, no foolishness. None of that stuff took place at the Classic. And that in itself is a real blessing. Now, let me say this. I appreciate the 55,000, right? But, in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, we were drawing 70,000 plus. The only difference is the fact, and people say, well, even when both teams were bad, we had 60, 70,000 people. The only difference in this game and those games is the fact that Disney was the sponsor. So I'm wondering if going forward, if they can be even a part of the discussion, or if they're willing to be a part of the discussion, because I believe that, they add so much more to the engagement of the local. And I want to say, because of Disney's media influence on a national level, Disney was able to bring that exposure. But it was a straight blessing.
That's a good point you just brought. I forgot about, one of the things my only, harping thing was about being an Orlando resident. And I had several people that did not know the Classic was happening. So in terms of reaching out to the local community, it was a fail. I'd give it a big F. And I didn't factor in the influence of Disney. And when they were a sponsor, those things that you brought up, Kofi, because it was noticeably, I had people tell me when they arrived at the airport, there was no signage, or at least from what they saw, about the Florida Classic. I mean, again, people in downtown Orlando, people in the outskirts didn't know the game was happening. And it was like, oh, the Florida Classic's happening this weekend? And I would just look at them and say, yeah, this weekend. So from that perspective, hey, we just agreed to have this Classic for 4 more years. I really hope the consortium of people really address and look at their marketing and advertising, because that difference, Kofi, that 55 to 70 is probably about 10,000 local people.
I'm trying to tell you, that is really the difference with successful classics and unsuccessful classics. you're going to have a fan base. FAMU's going to bring their 30,000 people in the state of Florida. We're going to bring our 30, especially to the Florida Classic. I want to say at least 25, right? We know when the game is, we going to beat it. You ain't got, blah, blah, blah. Cookman's going to bring another 15 to 20,000 people that's legitimately, wholeheartedly committed to Cookman. The engagement of the local community is what sets the Classic apart. And even when we were in Atlanta, it's the local engagement that sets it apart. When I remember when Disney had the game, the advertisement that was on social media when it was first starting, the advertisement that was in Ebony magazine, it was in Jet magazine, it was in all the major Black publications and newspapers around the country. So everywhere you look, there was an advertisement about the Florida Classic, and the only other Classic that advertised on that level was the Bayou Classic.
I think we simplifying it a little though. I think it's a little bit more to it because there were another 20,000-30,000 people out there that could have came in the stadium. I think we've kind of priced out some of the people, frankly, because of how we do the tickets and how they're sold. I think we should just flat out have the third section tickets available, sell them at $15 and call it a day. So that it's affordable for families of 5 and 6 or larger who are low income, or at least have some sponsorship to give it to local youth, whatever the case may be. But I think that's part of it. And then UCF, USF, and some of those schools when we first went to Orlando didn't have the biggest of presence, because they never had really football. Now you've got a decade or two of those kids who in that local market, and some of the fans there in our local market who identify with those schools. So there's a little bit more competition in the market also. And then the economy and things that's going on also factor in. So I don't think it's just a Disney presence that's missing. I do agree that some of those marketing things are could be better, but there were plenty of people at the stadium and around the stadium too that didn't come in. So I think we have to look at all the factors.
Right. We can table this and come back to this a little bit later in the show, because I know there were other little tidbits about the game that I wanted to mention, and we'll try to do all that. But you guys did a great job of hitting those main points. I want to make sure we also hit in this first segment the fact that our women's volleyball team won their second consecutive SWAC championship. And I got to say, it first started when they went out to Houston for the award ceremonies. And that's where the Rattlers dominated the SWAC player awards. As for the second consecutive year, we had the player of the year, the setter of the year, the libero of the year, and newcomer of the year, while leading the conference with 5 all-SWAC honorees. Ms. Dominique Washington is now the 2-time SWAC Player of the Year. She was also on all-SWAC first team. I think one of the things that was unique about Dominique this year is she averaged 4+ kills per set during conference play, had the highest hitting percentage of any SWAC player with 200+ kills during conference play. And she was a top contributor on the defensive end, finishing second on the team with 272 digs. That's about 2.5 digs per set. Iramu Carr, the setter of the year for the second consecutive year, a league average 10.76 assists per set, had 200 more assists than than the setter with the second most in the conference. Brooke Hudson won the libero of the year and was also all SWAC first team. She was one of the best defensive players in the nation. So just check on the roster. It's funny. We lost the libero of the year last year. We brought in the Libero of the Year from the previous year, and then we won the Libero of the Year with a new. I mean, just ridiculous what Coach Yilmaz has brought in. But back to Brooke, she finished with a 487 digs, which was top 50 in the nation, first in the SWAC. Led the league in total digs per set, and averaged 10 plus digs in 28 matches this year. Brooklyn Watts was the newcomer of the year as an outside hitter, all SWAC first team. Finished seventh, averaging, during SWAC play, she finished seventh, averaging 3 kills per set. Finished eighth in points and points per set during SWAC play. Had 10 plus kills in 12 matches, recorded a season high 21 in the win at Alabama State in the beginning of the season. She also contributed defensively, finishing with 218 digs. She was the newcomer of the week 4 times during the season and even was an offensive player of the week. Aja Jones made all SWAC second team as a middle hitter. She finished the season with 218 kills. That's about 2 kills per set. A 342 hitting percentage, which led the SWAC. Had 119 kills in SWAC play, had 10 plus kills in 9 matches, and had a season high 16 versus Elon. I believe Aja will be returning. And, the only 2 players I think on that list that we lost or will lose to eligibility, graduation, is Dominique and Iram. So that's how we started. That's how we started the tournament. Then the ladies did what, we all expected them to do, which was to go through the championship rounds, and they swept everybody, guys. The fact that they went through and they swept their opening round opponent, we ended up in the semifinals sweeping Bethune, and then we got into the championship match against Alabama State, the only team that we lost to all year, and they are the only team that, or I think we are the only team they lost to. So basically, it's very similar to last year with Jackson State, but this year it didn't go 5 sets. We beat them 25-22, 25-19, 26-24. A beautiful win for the Lady Rattlers, and it's an outstanding year. And there they are celebrating in their full glory. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, there's that championship photo from Sunday when they won. I think that it was a great crowd, great reception for them as they returned on Monday. Kelvin, you watched this team, you paid attention closely. Coming up in hour 2, we will have Coach Gokhan on with us in hour 2. But Kelvin, before we go to break, I want to give you a chance to kind of expound or share your thoughts about what we've accomplished in these first 2 years in the SWAC with our volleyball program.
So this was our second year with 20 plus wins. We're 21-12 right now. We went through the conference with only 1 conference loss 2 years in a row now. 2 include postseason, 1 conference loss. So we are a dynasty at this point right now. We the flavor of the month. So Coach Gokhan, he knows what he's doing, and he's doing more with less. I want us to do right by him so he can have a full-time assistant and maybe a grad assistant, and do a little bit more for the program to get the Gaither gym going with the scoreboard, PA systems, and everything in locker rooms, so that he can have a true home court advantage using that facility if he so choose, and as it was designed to be. But and fitting for a championship program. We always talk about we want championships. Well, we've got 2 of them now, and the kids are graduating. They represent us well, and they've earned it, at this point. So I'm really proud of the job that they've done and their success. And I hope they get fortunate enough to get a good draw. Usually because of regional stuff, they probably have to go to UF again, Gainesville. But it would be nice if like maybe Florida State was a host or someone else in the state that we get a chance to play.
Someone other than Florida. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So, but man, but I'm excited, man. I can't wait for NCAA play. And if it's close by, I'm gonna try to see if I can find a way to make it and support them. And of course, I'll be excited for what's to come.
I hope that with the fact that our new AD is a volleyball alum and a diehard. I mean, she was probably a Hall of Famer, given her time when she was at Virginia State. I would love for volleyball to get that kind of love and some of those things be on the priority because that sport is near and dear to her heart. So I'm just fingers crossed that, I know there's a lot of things that need a lot of attention, but sometimes when you have a sport that's near and dear to your heart because you played it, you kind of, sport gets a little bit of love. Maybe get an extra, like tomorrow at Thanksgiving, Kofi, you're gonna get the big piece of the meat. You're gonna get the big turkey leg because you Papa. Pop gonna get the big turkey leg. Even though your other folks gonna want it, you ain't giving up the turkey leg. Am I right on that, Kofi?
Absolutely. Well, we're not doing turkey this year, just for the record, but I get you. I understand.
We got to. Okay, we can talk about that later.
We are new.
What? Whoa. Okay, hold on. I got to talk with you fellas. We'll talk about we'll talk about menu later on in the show. Kofi, real quick before we go to break, anything you want to add about the volleyball team before we go to break?
No, I'm proud of this team. We have a partnership with Coach Gokhan and the volleyball team, and people don't understand the full gamut of what it means. To how hard it is to run a program on the highest of 7 hills. There's adversity that you face with your team, but the adversity that you go through behind the scenes, getting players eligible, finding a spot to practice, finding and scheduling a game facility, all of those things. And even, just like we could be so much better if we had all of that stuff goes in or gets factored in to the greatness. So to get the level of quality, to be able to acquire the quality athletes that he's been able to acquire, and then not only acquire them, but develop them to a championship level, maintain the level, and win championships, which is really what it's all about. Win the regular season, but at the end of the day, we've got to win the tournament, and that's the goal. We know that going in, come hell or high water, we got to win the darn tournament. That's what it's about. And he got our girls, our ladies, our women in peak position to win the tournament. And they swept the team that beat them about a month ago. So all of that speaks to development. It speaks to the toughness of this team and the fact that they were able to battle through that and win it.
Yes, indeed. Drop those, we drop those donations, those Rattler Athletic Fund donations on behalf of FAMU volleyball. Let's see, 2 titles. That's at least 20. That's 10 for each title in the SWAC. If you really want to go, I think it's now our 15th conference title. So yeah, you want to add 10 times 15, that's 150 if you want to just every year they win it. But we'll stick to 20 in the SWAC. Make a $20 contribution to the Rattler Athletic Fund in the name of FAMU volleyball for winning that SWAC championship 2 times in a row. We're going to take a 2-minute break in just a second. Coming up on the other side, yeah, we're going to talk about it, but we're not going to talk about it alone because we got Stan Becton of NCAA.com coming to talk to us. Stan was one of the only people who in his predictions thought FAMU had the had earned their way into the playoffs. We're going to find out why so many others didn't, and possibly find out why the selection committee didn't as well. Coming up on the other side, you're watching the O&G Strike Zone. We'll be back in just a moment.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Five-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. I don't think the audio was coming through there because I was checking it on another channel. So we'll try to see what we had hoped to be able to play there on the comeback out of that commercial break was Coach Simmons' message to Rattler Nation on Monday morning. And I love the way that he did that, and just talking to us, talking to Rattler Nation, just to let us know not only their disappointment in not being selected by the NCAA selection committee into the playoffs, but also his appreciation. I hear the audio in the background. Let's see if we can go to it live. Let's try to reboot that. So if our producer Mel wants to try to run that, let's try it now.
Rattler Nation's head football coach Willie Simmons here. Obviously, a very disappointing day for our program after getting word that we didn't get invited to the FCS playoffs. My heart just goes out to these young men. They fought for this program. They've done more than we've ever asked, and they did what they needed to do on the football field to show that they were deserving of an opportunity to play for a national championship. But this is a resilient group of guys. Again, I hate it for the seniors. But what better way to send those guys off than a resounding win in the Florida Classic? I'm proud of them. Words don't do justice of what I feel about this program, about these young men, and my heart just continues to go out to them. And but they're going to be successful in life because of what we've been doing this year. So, Rattler Nation, thank you for your support. We'll need it moving forward. This is the last time we want to see our young men be shortchanged, and we want to control our own destiny. So, thank you guys. We love you all. As always, go Rattlers.
All right. So there we had the comments from Coach Simmons. We've got Stan Becton from NCAA.com. So let's bring Stan in and we can kind of talk because, again, in the lead up to, a lot of people's predictions and analysis of the playoff field, Stan was one of the few who, actually the only one that I came across, and there were several, whether it be from stats analytics. I didn't see whether Zach Blue Bloods did one or not, but Sam Herder of anyone who was doing predictions, none of them had FAMU in their selections, in their I guess it would have been the lead up to. So do we have Stan ready to join us here, producer Mel? Wait a minute. There we go. All right, there he is, joining us right now. Stan Becton, of course, of NCAA.com. Stan, it's a pleasure to have you on with this evening. How you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Glad to be back on the show.
All right. So let's jump right into it, Stan. Now, when you did your preseason, or not preseason, your pre-selection of the FCS field, what was it that you and I guess if you would juxtapose this against what actually turned out, what do you feel? What did you get right? Obviously, what did you get wrong? And where was the disconnect, do you feel, between what you thought of FAMU's resume and what turned out to be the selection committee's view of their resume, FAMU's resume?
Yeah, so I had FAMU as one of my last two teams in. So it really came down to those last two spots. When I was doing my bracket predictions, I actually picked FAMU and Rhode Island to make the picks. And first, for that Rhode Island pick, I'll jump there first. So it was between Rhode Island or Delaware for me to make that pick. And Rhode Island got that last spot in. I had them slotted behind FAMU in my predictions. But with the committee picking Delaware, Delaware has that FBS win from that CAA. So they would probably bump above FAMU for that last spot in the committee's eyes. In my eyes, I picked Rhode Island because Rhode Island had less FCS losses compared to Delaware, but Delaware had that FBS win, so they took that 12th spot. But then when you look at FAMU and challenging for that last spot with Montana, I personally was of the opinion that FAMU should get in over Montana. I felt there were a couple teams that should have got in over Montana because Montana had no quality wins, 4 FCS losses. Even though all those losses were to ranked opponents, teams that made the playoff field, there were still 4 FCS losses. You had teams like Austin Peay who had they lost to Jacksonville State, who's an FBS transitioning team. They played Alabama last week. They lost to another FCS team. They beat a team in the playoffs. So that was a team I had over Montana. I had Chattanooga over Montana. And, of course, I had FAMU over Montana. And for me personally, looking at FAMU, I looked at what the committee did last year. So 9-2 last year, 9-2 this year. And then I figured if they were good enough to make it last year, of course that defense isn't at that same level. So that probably played a little bit into the committee's decision. I'm not on the committee, for those who don't know, even though I work for NCAA.com. Just want to make sure that's clear. I'm not on the committee.
Do not send hate mail to Stan, everybody. Okay? Yeah. No hate mail to Stan. He's not on the committee. I'm glad you said that because
Yeah, I work for NCAA.com, but I'm not on the committee. I did not see the bracket until everyone else saw the bracket. Well, I mean, yeah, I didn't see the bracket until everyone else saw the bracket. But FAMU 92 last year, 92 this year. I figured they should make it based off of 9 wins, 8 FBS wins. No one else had more than 7. Only 1 FCS loss. FBS losses, of course, don't factor into the committee's evaluation. So I figured that would be enough, but of course, committee went the other way with Montana. And my personal opinion, just going back to maybe why the committee might have gone with Montana, is um, well, first let me break down some of the committee's factors they factor in. So I haven't written down here because I had to do this in my bracket predictions earlier in the year. So they look at strength of schedule, non-conference record, strength of non-conference record, and recent postseason performance are some of the things they look at. So with it being Montana, Montana's a big FCS name and whatnot. I figured that's probably part of the reason why. So you look at that recent FCS performance, Montana won a couple games last year in the playoffs and whatnot. Their non-conference record probably wasn't. It was better than FAMU's, but it probably wasn't too good just based off of who they got in that Big Sky and BFC battles. But it really probably came down to their strength of record, with those 4 losses coming to like ranked opponents and things like that. So that's probably why the committee chose that. I still think that if they were going to use that reason, they could have picked a team that wasn't Montana. But I think it probably really came down to that recent postseason for them.
Go ahead, Kelvin. Wait, say you're on mute, Kelvin.
I promise I got a question for you, Stan, but before I throw that question at you, I just got facts I'm going to throw at you, right? And it's going to center around those 7-4 teams and those teams that got in over FAMU. And then the second part of what I'm going to present is just, sometimes folks talk about strength of schedule and the SWAC as a conference. And, so I hope I was surprised when I started looking at some of this stuff. So I think it's good information for this discussion. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about the teams that got in. We talk about the University of Delaware getting in. Do you know that they had 3 wins against HBCUs? Morgan State, Hampton, and Delaware State. Out of their 7 wins, it was 3 HBCU wins. And they lost 3 of their last 4 games, including their last game to a 5-5 Villanova team. That resume coming into postseason, 3 out of 4, you lose in November. You beat 3 HBCUs out of your 7 wins. And then there wasn't the good ones. There wasn't the Jackson States and FAMUs they would beat neither, right? That don't earn you a playoff bid over a 9-2 FAMU. Now that's just the facts. That's what you're rolling with. Montana 7-4. They lost 4 of their last 6 games going into postseason. But more importantly, and that included a blowout loss to Montana State. Saturday, 55 points put on them. And you know what their 2 wins were? Out of the 4, they lost 4, but the 2 wins, 1-10 Idaho State and 4-7 Portland State. I mean, that's their resume. That ain't my opinion. Okay? Idaho lost 2 of their last 4 games. They lost to a 6-5 UC Davis. Their last 3 wins, the same as Montana. Idaho State, 1-10. Portland State, 4-7. And Eastern Washington University, 3-8. Same Eastern Washington University that barely got by at home against Tennessee State the first game of the season. All right. Southeast Louisiana, 8-3. They did come in at least on a winning streak coming into the playoffs, right? They were winning games.
Wait,
but
I don't want to
they
cut you
beat.
off with Southeastern
Go,
Louisiana. They got the at-large bid, so you can't factor them in. They got the at-large bid because they won their conference.
you mean they got an automatic bid?
Yeah. Or yeah, they got my fault.
Okay.
Automatic, yeah. Automatic. So they
Yeah.
Well, keep going. You're saying some good stuff. Keep going. I like what you're saying. I like
But their wins. 1-10 Lamar, 4-7 McNeese, 3-8 Nichols, 4-7 Northwestern. I mean, I could go on. I have East Kentucky and North Dakota who got in at 7-4 too. The point being is, these teams weren't beating good teams. They weren't beating teams with winning records, right? Their conferences weren't mega strong conferences, right? So when we talk about, for me, strength of schedule, that's subjective. And at the end of the day, strength of schedule is just one of the formula. There's other things like you mentioned. There's FCS wins. FAMU in FCS games are 8-1 for 2 years in a row. Out of conference games. I mean, everybody just ignore that we played North Carolina the first game of the season. 8-2 North Carolina that's competing for ACC championship, and went into the fourth quarter down 34-24 in that game. Everybody bring up the Jackson State game. I just told you what Montana. That was our first 2 games of the season, dealing with compliance issues and all that stuff. They supposed to be able to consider that kind of thing too. We didn't have all our players, but we just talked about Montana State steamrolling Montana at the end of the year, 55 points. So I just really think that there's a serious bias there and a lack of inclusion, and that's my issue. If you're going to apply things, you need to apply it equally to all the conferences and all the schools, and of course that doesn't happen with HBCUs. And then the one other thing I want to talk about before I let Stan respond to some of this is that people seem to think that the SWAC doesn't play out of conference FCS. So I took a look at it, and the schools that did play out of conference FCS, right? Of course, you played South Carolina State, who was the defending MEAC champions, and expected to be the MEAC champions. They were predicted to be the MEAC champions again. All right, so FAMU against FCS out of conference 1-0. Jackson State was 1-0. They played Campbell. So those are 2 best teams in the conference, but the out of conference was the out of conference. Alabama State played Howard, who was a co-champion for the MEAC. They were 1-0. Alcorn played McNeese State, beat them 30-19. That same McNeese State, Southeastern Louisiana beat them 28-27. And then Alcorn they were 1-1. They had a close loss to Stephen F. Austin, 31-27. Grambling, a bad Grambling team, beat Northwestern State, blew them out 47-21. This year, Prairie View was 1-2 in out of conference games. Because they're in Texas, there's a lot of FCS schools in Texas. They play Abilene Christian, which was who ended up being 7-4 in their conference. I mean, that game was a competitive game, 21-13. They also play UIW, who's a top seed. That game ended up being 31-14, double-digit loss. But, I mean, at points, it was competitive. And then they blew out Lamar. Blew them out, 54-21. Valley, a bad Valley team, played Tarleton and Austin Peay. So I guess my point is the SWAC and HBCUs play out of conference, and they just as competitive as those teams in those conferences when they play those same schools, number one. So this whole argument for me of, projecting what FAMU and Jackson State or, a top HBCU would do against their counterparts, well, we do have some comparative data that, the top end HBCUs would be just as competitive against those teams as the bottom teams were against the teams and the bottom teams in those same conferences. So I just think 9 wins is 9 wins. That's a fact. We can't control our conference,
who wins non-conference, but we had 2 winning teams on our East. We were in the East Division, right? So Jackson State was in our division, and Alabama State is in our division, who's 6-4, probably be 7-4 after tomorrow. And we play Southern, who may represent the West in the SWAC. So I mean, I just think those facts say a lot. And if you look at it, that's not opinion. FAMU should have been in. What say you, Stan?
Yeah, like all that makes sense. Like I said, I thought FAMU should have been in when I made my predictions. Especially the point you made about Montana. They didn't. They beat Idaho State, all of them and whatnot. I would say with Idaho though, even though Idaho entered losing one game, losing the game 2 weeks before and winning its last game, it did have a win that over a Montana team that was ranked number 3 at the time, and it was ranked, I think, like in the top 20 the last week of the regular season. So that helped them. That's why I had them as like a guaranteed as long as they won type of thing. But as far as Delaware goes and those final 2, it really was that FBS win, in my opinion, that carried them. Because like you said, you guys played North Carolina, but when the committee looks at it, they don't factor in FBS losses for any team in that discussion because they know that you're not supposed to win those games. So even last year when you guys lost to South Florida, they didn't factor that loss in. So it doesn't really matter unless you win that game. As far as like how they look at it in that aspect of it. But I really want to get back to one point.
But they get credit for beating Navy.
You get credit for winning, but you don't get credit for losing. Yeah, so that's kind of how it works with that. Yeah, you get credit for winning.
Yeah, I hear you.
That way, because you'll have some FCS teams, they'll play 2 FBS schools, and then you might go 7-4 and lose 2 FBS games. So now it's like, well, are they 7-4 really, or are they 7-2? So that's why they don't factor those in, because you might play different things. But when it comes to you guys, like what I did really after the committee decided FAMU wasn't in was compare you guys' resume like amongst yourselves last year and this year. And then so you guys went 9-2 both years, but the biggest thing I think it really comes down to how you guys went 9-2. I think probably played another factor that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are saying you guys beat a D2 team, and of course that does factor in a little bit less. So like how an FBS win factors in more, a D2 win factors in less when the committee does it based off of the guidelines and stuff they have out there. Also, if you guys want to see the guidelines, any like listeners or fans watching, you can go just search FCS. Just go to Google, search FCS, and then type NCAA.org. And then when you click that NCAA.org link, just go to the pre-championships manual. And then it has like a bunch of guidelines they use for championship selections and all of that. But then with just looking like more specifically into you guys' schedule. So this year you guys beat Albany State by 10 points, but last year you beat Fort Valley State by 27 points. But then like in the conference, you guys had a 13.67 margin of victory this year, but a 19.44 margin of victory. No, a 19.4 margin of victory last year, 13.67 margin of victory this year. So you guys were beating teams more effectively last year than this year. Of course, that goes into like what I said earlier about your defense being like top 10 last year and all of that. So that probably was another thing they looked at when it was looking at like, okay, some of these games are close, like Alabama State needing that block kick or whatever to win. I mean, of course, he has to make the kick for you guys to lose, but they look at stuff like that. And really, I think it just came down to how you got.
Maine, 42-41. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
We were not dominant. We won by double digits still, but we weren't as dominant. But so was everybody else. Why are we different?
But that's really the thing. I think when it comes to evaluating that and then evaluating FAMU being from the SWAC, I know you gave all those facts about the non-conference. I loved how the SWAC played non-conference, honestly, especially Prairie View. Prairie View, their quarterback missed some of that UIW game. I think they had a chance to make that game a little bit closer if he played in that game, watching that game. But just looking at the SWAC's they played those games. Now they didn't win as many of those as you would like, but they played those games. So I can't fault them for like not playing those games when it comes to that strength of schedule. But I think when it comes to you guys as non-conference, South Carolina State let you guys down. They're supposed to be better. If South Carolina State wins the MEAC, I think you guys probably get in because that looks like, okay, we beat a conference champion. Got to get them in. But then I just think that at the end of the day, when it came down to it, the biggest thing I think when it comes to picking Montana or FAMU for that committee probably was that recent postseason success. So they probably looked at how the SWAC hasn't won a playoff game and then how FAMU did last year in the game when that team would be perceived as better based off of the statistics of that team. And they probably looked at that compared to a Montana team where they know their recent history in the playoffs, and they probably said, okay, we're going to go to Montana since it's closer. I personally wouldn't have done it. I think if you got 9 wins, you deserve to get in. But I think that's probably what they looked at and probably was the final. Like, if they had to flip a coin, that's probably what made them, like, tilt the table a little bit so it lands on that side.
Kofi, go ahead. You're on mute. You're on mute, Kofi. Go ahead. We can't hear you, Kofi. Kofi, we can't hear you. There we go.
Can you hear me? Brother Kelvin definitely hit it out of the park with his facts. In addition to that, what really concerns me, I think, when you come up with stuff is how the message or how the rules are implemented. And my problem with it is that it's very inconsistent. You know, whether for HBCUs, whether you have quality wins or don't have quality wins. If they want you in, they find a way to put you in. Case in point, in 2019, South Carolina State beat a 15th ranked Wofford team. Their only losses were to FAMU, North Carolina A&T, and Clemson. FAMU, A&T, and Clemson. South Carolina State deserved to be in the FCS playoffs if they're looking at quality wins. But when they find a reason not to put you in, they say, well, they played Lane. Get out of here. I mean, they're freaking playing Lane. They played A&T, FAMU, and they played a Wofford team who at the time was ranked 15th in the country. You know, obviously with the SWAC and the MEAC, we gave up our seats at the table when we chose the Celebration Bowl. So there's nobody in the room that's going to argue on our behalf to say, hey, wait. This isn't right. You have to consider this. You need to look at this. Let's look at the fact that North Carolina Central beat multiple teams out of conference. They beat multiple teams out of conference, yet they lost to South Carolina State by 2 points. And they beat North Carolina A&T. So, you know, to win these games, whether it's a game, whatever, it's not easy winning multiple games and winning games consecutively, let alone 9 in a freaking row. If you win 9 in a row, you've got a good team, whether you win by 3, whether you win by 10, whether you win by 15, or even 1 point. If you win the game, you're a winner. And I think that a lot of that needs to be considered. All data that goes into these computers has to be input by somebody. And it comes down to the fact in terms of what the people at the table want to consider relevant information or irrelevant information. And if a conference has more people talking before the meeting or even after the meeting, and you don't have anybody on your behalf to have those conversations with those people, they'll be like, oh, well, you just beat Alabama State. Well, look, Alabama State allowed 44 points to UCLA. USC just scored 45, allowed 45 points by the same UCLA team. So Alabama State's defense is legitimately good on the FCS level. But they don't value our conference. They put our conference like one of the lower rated conferences. Well, who in the world is rating these systems? You know, who is rating the conferences to say this conference is better than that one and this one is better than this one, XYZ. North Dakota State has dominated the entire FCS the last 10 years. It's not like multiple teams from all these raggedy conferences are winning national titles. It's been one team that's been extremely dominant. It's been North Dakota State and everybody else. And it's probably going to be pretty much the same thing. But they say, okay, well, quality win, quality win. Howard had beaten UNLV, and I think that they beat Kent State in 2018.
No, they were close, though. It was a
They
close
were
game.
close, okay? But they beat UNLV, and that was the third or fourth place team in the conference. They did third or fourth place team in the MEAC. And we didn't even find a way, you know, to get these guys competitive or in the playoffs, to even have that conversation. So I said all that to say the committee looks at what they want to look at, you know, and if you don't have representation at the table, you know, or anybody fighting or lobbying for you on your behalf, more than likely you're going to miss out.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree with that. I think that if you guys had somebody from the SWAC or maybe from the MEAC, I'm not sure if they're going to vouch for you guys, giving you guys left. But if you guys definitely had someone from the SWAC, I think for sure they would have been able to, like, even if they didn't, because I know, for example, if someone, say it was someone from Eastern Kentucky on that committee, when they bring Eastern Kentucky to the table, I know since it's that same school, they have to go out. I'm not sure if it's the same conference or not, but regardless, even if that person did have to go out, I think that person could have vouched against those other bubble teams in a way, just knowing that they can be like, okay, no, we see these things. So I think that would help having that representation. I'm not sure that who has to talk to who to get you guys some of that representation, since you guys are still eligible for the playoffs, even though you guys don't send your at-large bid. It's way different than the Ivy League. The Ivy League, they say no, I don't get that. That's a whole different story. But since you guys are still eligible, I think you guys should, as a conference, be able to have representation if you guys send somebody. I don't know exactly how that would go. Haven't really gotten to the weeds of that. So that's a good point you make there. And yeah, like you said, 9 wins is 9 wins. That South Carolina State team, that 15. I don't know who else were. I've heard that a couple times this week. At that point, a couple times about South Carolina State. That team back in 2019, I think you said. I've heard that point a couple times. I'm not sure who got those last at-large bids back then, but definitely, I think when I hear it, just off the top of my head, 8-3, top 15 win. That sounds like a playoff-worthy resume, especially given one of those teams they lost to won the conference. So that team, I think, based off of just the resume, just hearing that team alone, sounds like a team that should get in. I still think FAMU should have got in. 9 wins is not. I don't get it, but I mean, right? I know you guys have to be more, hold that more because that's your team. Me,
That's
I have
my
to kind of
team,
move
right?
on. Yeah.
But
I got to move on.
Right.
So
that's my team. That's our team, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, Dr. King said, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So we looking at the fact that, you know, there's inconsistency in what they're picking. Now, there'll be those that will say, okay, well, what were your quality wins and who did you beat? I'm like, look, all your wins is quality. All of your wins are quality. If you win the game, as my man said, why do you play? You play to win the game. That's why you out there. Did you win the game? Yes. There's no way in on God's green earth that a 4-loss Montana team with no quality wins should be in over a 9-2 FAMU. I get it. You barely lost, but you lost. You lost. You didn't win the conference. You weren't in first or second place. You're in third or fourth place in a conference. You weren't even competitive in your conference. How are you going to win a national title? Why are you in the playoffs?
Yeah, Montana was 5th place in their conference.
Give me a
and I
freaking
I
break.
personally think Yeah, they got blown out. I thought when they got blown out in that last game, that knocked them.
How they
That's
gonna
what
win
I.
a national? So my argument to the people at the table is: you believe in your heart of hearts that Montana is gonna win the national title, and they just lost 55 to XYZ. You believe that this team that you about to put in the playoffs has a legitimate opportunity to win a national title. That's BS. You know, but when you don't have somebody at the table arguing that point, they get to sit around and say what. Sorry, I've started to curse, but they get to sit around and say what the fuck they want to say without any accountability or any consideration, irregardless of what's going on. And they'll say, okay, well, FAMU needs to play, how you manage your schedule. Well, guess what? At the time when we made this schedule, our team was on probation. And we weren't really even thinking about playoffs. We were just trying to, and our athletic department had a major deficit. So it's like, so how do we maximize this and generate revenue? So the people that got together to put together these schedules said, okay, well, a Division II playoffs wasn't necessarily a consideration at the time. We play this Division II team, they'll pack our stadium, we generate some revenue, and that's it. And they're competitive D2 teams. I don't think that, and the reality is that a lot of these Division II teams, the upper level Division II teams, are going to be competitive with your FCS teams, which is a point that nobody wants to talk about. West Florida would wipe a lot of these teams that are in the playoffs now. They would be competitive with them now. Let's take Delta State. Delta State would beat the brakes off some of these teams that's in the playoffs now, but they talk about, quote unquote, it's Division II. It's football. And they have transfer portal athletes just like everybody else. They've got X's and O's just like everybody else. But when you look at what you want to look at, you excuse what you desire to excuse, and you look over what you desire to look over, because nobody's at the table to tell you your ass is wrong. I'm done.
You guys definitely make that schedule great. Like, there's no complaints with making a schedule. Like, I don't see how anyone can say you guys didn't make a good schedule. You guys scheduled South Carolina State, one of the best teams in recent memory in that MEAC, like one of the upper teams, especially given the teams that left. They are the best team historically remaining in the MEAC. And then you guys scheduled an Albany State team that made the D2 playoffs and a North Carolina team. So it's no complaints about the schedule. I think the real complaint, like you said, is just using different inconsistencies with the criteria between choosing Montana and choosing FAMU. I think those are really the inconsistencies. Like you said, neither team, by the committee standard, neither team probably has a quality win. I think Alabama State and Southern are better than anyone's Montana beat, in my opinion. So if we're going to say none of those are quality wins, then we're going to go to, like, who has the best least quality win. And I would say FAMU does. So I think, yeah, it's just, like you said, inconsistencies.
Right. They look at what they want to look at.
Stan, I appreciate your time, your being able to kind of sit and soak this up, and like there are a ton of other conversations, and maybe I would love to be able to do a deeper dive with you. Maybe I don't know if you're able, if as we go forward here, if you're able to gather more information from folks. I mean, given the access that you have, and then maybe we can do a deeper dive into this, because there's a lot of things here, and I know we're in a shorter space and time to talk about this. So I'm hoping we can get you back on here in another week or two and kind of readdress this, maybe in a long form version, and be able to really bounce these different ideas. So I won't even go to last thoughts, but I just wanted to say that to you, because I know we went over our time, and I appreciate you kind of coming in with us. I'll give you a final word, final thought. Let people know how they can find your articles, and then let's offline kind of figure out when we can do an additional version of this.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Stan_Becton, Becton, spelled right on the screen right there. And then for my articles, you can just find them on NCAA.com. Just go to the football FCS section. Basically, I do all the articles there. I don't think anyone else has written any articles FCS related this year. If they have, I probably missed it. But yeah, I write all those articles there. And then, yeah, just final thoughts. I think the biggest takeaway was that the committee was inconsistent as far as their determining factors for different teams as far as picking those final at-large bids. And I think that FAMU was a playoff caliber team. And I think like I said, I'm of the opinion they should get in, but I also can see why the committee did. I don't have to agree with it, but I am excited for the playoffs one way or the other. I am excited for those. I wish FAMU was playing in it because, one, I like to see the band too. So
Well said. Well
Let's go.
said. And again, Stan Becton was not on the selection committee. So again, folks, do not send hate mail or emails to Stan. He had nothing to do with it. And we appreciate Stan for coming on. We will have another podcast, another forum where we do long form version with Stan, and we can do this again. So Stan, thank you for your time tonight. Let's take a short break, come right back to the O&G Strike Zone. And we'll see if our next guest is still hanging in our waiting room with us. So, again, Stan Becton, NCAA.com. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
All right, welcome back to the O&G Strike Zone. Brian, Kelvin, Kofi, the champs are here. The head coach of our championship volleyball team, Coach Gokhan Yilmaz, always gracious with his time, always finding time even to come on with us when we run late. Coach, we appreciate you. How you doing this evening?
Very good. Thanks for having me, and happy to be here with you all.
Yes, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, to the coaches, your players. Coach, we did it. You did it. Back-to-back SWAC titles. What are the emotions of having to go through this season, and how rewarding does it feel to do it again and the way you did it?
Well, thank you, first of all. And I want to congratulate our football team and Coach Willis Simmons having another great season. I know they they deserved to be in the playoffs, but fortunately their season came to an end. also congratulating Coach Pillow on having the first win earlier this year. They are more improved, so that's really great to see. For us, season started with the certification issues like did. We scheduled much better this year. I believe we have 9 teams that are in top 100. We played early on. Just to give you an idea, James Madison is number 21 in the country right now. They won their conference. We lost 5 sets at home. Yale is another team that won their conference. It was a very close match for us. They're number 20 in the country at the moment. And Florida State, we played a very competitive match against them. They're number 29. So all of those matches we feel like were winnable. Even South Alabama at South Alabama in that fourth weekend. But after that 0-7 start, which is unusual for our team with all the experience we have, we were able to put everything together. And I believe SWAC was significantly better this year than it was last year from top to bottom. Even the teams that didn't make it to the conference tournament were much better, competitive. And we played a better season, I think. And, we didn't win the regular season last year. We did this year. So that was a plus. And the fantastic conference tournament overall, program as a whole unit.
Go ahead, Kelvin. You're on mute, Kelvin. You're on mute. Can't hear you. Let's see. Make sure we can hear you. We got you now. Test 1, 2. Kelvin.
Okay. All right.
There we go. Now we hear you. Now we got you. Go ahead, Kelvin.
So, Coach, I want you to talk about the tournament itself. You went undefeated. You swept everybody you played. You end up playing Bethune because they pull a upset in their first round and on Saturday, and then you play Alabama State, a team that we had some real battles with throughout the regular season. We split. They got the tournament first seed because they won their game against us with losing less sets, I think it was, versus when I think we went 5 with them in our win, and they went 4. But just talk about what went right for the team and what was the mindset going into the tournament.
Well, I think the match we lost to Alabama State at home helped us quite a bit preparing for the conference tournament. Sometimes you lose these matches, it gives you a list of things you have to work on, and it also motivates you to do better next time you play these teams. And we had to go through Jackson, Alabama, Grambling, Bethune-Cookman, those guys to win a conference championship. We were very nervous for our first round match against Pine Bluff. They had a good season. They played a very competitive match against us. First time we played them, we were able to beat them in 4 sets. You're right, Bethune-Cookman played a very good first round, but they've been on the upswing. Their coach Brittany has done a very good with that young group. They keep improving every week. But I played very well match. Our serve and pass was very high quality. Our focus was exceptional in all 3 matches. And then going to Alabama State, they a lot of things that we were not used to. We were not prepared in both matches we played this season. But after both times it gave us a very good list of things to work on. And we were able to catch their lineup with the matchups we wanted because they keep switching the position of their players. But what a great performance from them. But one more time, our serve and pass was very good. Our experienced players were spot on with their leadership. And I can our staff helping us to prepare our team as well, from our assistant coach to our trainer to our strength and conditioning.
Go ahead, Kofi.
Man, I'm just so proud of you guys, man. It's just a blessing to be able to go through the adversity that you all had to go through at the beginning of the year, just really with all the compliance stuff or the lack of what we had in terms of resources, and to get these guys to a championship level is real kudos to you. What I want to talk about is, what is the interest around the FAMU volleyball program from a recruitment perspective, and where we are now and where we're going?
Yeah, thank you. And again, I'm very glad we won. We had a successful season. Even if we didn't win this, it would still have been a great season for us, and a lot of individual accomplishments as well. Ring has improved quite a bit. We have 4 kids that committed, and all 4 of them signed. We'll announce them upcoming week after Thanksgiving. They're fairly local. One of them is from Fort Walton Beach. 2 of them are from Atlanta. One actually has connection to Tallahassee. She used to live in Tallahassee, went to McClay sometime. Dad is a former professional basketball player, played at TCC, and now season played long time. She plays for one of the best clubs in the country in Atlanta. And then the 4th one is from Birmingham, so fairly local. And we'll still look at some transfers too. I would expect to have a class of 6 or 7. But that 4 we're expecting to announce in the upcoming week. And recruiting wise, the year I got the job here, we had a recruiting list 0 kids, to be honest. We followed a staff that didn't recruit domestically, that didn't respond to emails, that didn't go out and watch kids. So we had to build a recruiting list from nothing. And right now we have a good group of kids we watch that are class of 2024, 2025, even some 2026. Over the summer we were able to watch. We can't contact those kids, obviously, but we can continue to see how they're developing. And when you start winning, kids, more families want to be part of it. So I'm expecting recruiting to even get better from here.
Coach, I want to talk about, or want you to talk about Dominique and Iram. Dominique Washington, I think her story is one of the best stories that I've honestly paid attention to, from somebody who was a role player at a Power 5 to come over and become the 2-time player of the year in the conference. I mean, that's big time. I mean, it almost feels like she found her game at FAMU, or you know, so what you and the coaches did to allow her to be able to blossom into the player that she probably always was, just speaks volumes. And then Iram has been a dominant player over the past couple years. So, I mean, those 2 young ladies sort of setting, you talked about this championship tradition now, that the expectation, you're winning, the recruiting is going to get better, the expectation, the bullseye's on the back. And I feel like Dominique and Iram are part of that. Talk a little bit about what they mean to you, what they mean to this program in its first couple years in the SWAC.
Yeah, both of them are not only great volleyball players, but great individual. They're not only winners on the court, they're winners in everything in the classroom, and they'll be winners in life. We were lucky when both of them committed. When Dominique committed, we knew we had a major piece to build a championship group here. And at home at FAMU, that's what happened. Like you said, she was always talented. Wherever she was one of the best players on the roster, no matter what, if she played a lot or if she didn't. But she came here, found a home, really worked on her leadership qualities, ended up being one of the players that worked the hardest. And I think that helps our culture quite a bit. And Iram, same way. She is going to be graduating, and you know, I'm confident she'll play professional when she goes back home. Very good setter, but that's another kid where you can push them to the limit in practice with no issues, although they know they are one of the best players in their position regionally, and in some cases in the entire country. So when she committed, we had a huge piece as well. But the other kids that came in really provided great competition to those also. The setters we added were great Iram, and outsides that were added. I mean, I always tell my team, even our third, fourth players in those positions are top four SWAC players. They can play in a lot of these teams, and they can play at a very high level. And I think one of you mentioned earlier, libero position, Jada Taylor was preseason libero of the year, that she fit into a defensive specialist role for us this year because Brooke Hudson was so good. And same thing, Jasmine Rock was second team all conference last year, played some this year, ended up not being in top two in that position, outside position she plays, but she provided great competition for us in every practice, and that definitely helped push Nick and Iram day to day. And I think the group that started this is the group that graduated 2 years ago. So the group with Alexis Gaucher, Valentina Carrasco, Yvette Garza, Dimitrova sisters, they paved the way for these, but this group really took it to heart and helped us take college as champions.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
So, Coach, let's talk about projections for the NCAA tournament. What are the possible locations and seed, and how do you feel how your team is going into that tournament, and what are they doing for the holidays? Did you let them go home? Are y'all still together or what?
Yeah, there is only one team that can host in driving distance to us. That's Florida. So it looks like that's where we end up. Georgia Tech had a chance. I think they were 18. You have to be in top 16 to host. And they lost to Pittsburgh today. That would have been a very, very good if they pulled it off. I think they lost in 5 sets. So I don't know if they'll be able to be one of the hosts. Florida State was too low to be in top 16. I don't think they'll be hosting as well. And as we discussed in the past, volley first 2 rounds regionalized. So would expect to be Florida regional again. And yeah, we practiced this morning. We had a very early practice. We let the kids go home for a couple of days. We'll be back Saturday afternoon to practice. So we'll have a couple of practices that day, Sunday, and that Sunday is the selection show, of course, and then continue getting ready for the first round.
Okay.
All right, Kofi, go ahead and close it up with Coach there.
Awesome, man. So I remember you earlier in the season were talking about the next year tournament, or the tournament, hosting a tournament next year. Are we still looking in that regard of hosting a volleyball tournament in 2023? And if so, what's that going to look like? Do we have a date?
Yes, it's in the works. It's going to be the second weekend in December. I believe it's going to be a 3-day tournament. I don't know if it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have South Alabama coming. We have North A&T very interested. I think they'll end up coming here too. So we'll find a 4th team. So we're looking to be here for that weekend. And I believe the first tournament we hold in Tallahassee on our campus.
Kudos, Coach. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Coach, one final thought, Coach, one last question, and I brought this up earlier with the fact that our incoming AD, Miss Tiffany, or AD Tiffany Dawn Sykes, is a former volleyball player. Have you two had a chance to talk, so to speak, talk shop, talk volleyball, and does it feel, have you gotten any inclination that, oh, hey, this is a good thing, not just because of who she is, but she's a volleyball player. She understands what we're going through and what we have to go through, and just a different perspective than maybe if she were an administrator that had a different perspective of another sport?
Yeah, we as coaches had the opportunity to meet Tiffany when she came for the interview. She was very personable. She got high praise from everybody on campus while she was here. And during the homecoming week, she showed up at one of our practices at 6 a.m. So she was bright and early there for the practice. We encouraged her to jump in and practice with the kids, but she did that. After that, we haven't had much conversations. She called me after the chat briefly. I think she was trying to catch a flight, congratulate us and congratulate the team. I believe she's going to be a blessing for our program. I also want to point out Mike Smith has done great for our team too, with the support that he's providing in the interim basis, and President Robinson has been great, even arranging arranging and greet when we came back in town on Monday, right before the basketball game, and introducing him, having a great crowd there. That was really good. But we believe Tiffany will go behind the volleyball team. Now we have the momentum and really help us push this as one of the marquee programs here, not only at the university, but in town, that we make it as competitive as Florida. We're not only expecting to win conference champions, but we're expecting to have very successful preseason records as well, going up and playing Power Five, or beating schools that are consistently winning their conferences in our region. And we can definitely do that. We've shown that we have limited resources. And if we can get behind these kids and behind this program, I think we can do even better things.
Coach,
Yes,
have you
sir.
been to the 220 Club?
Yes, I have. Yes, they were generous enough to invite me there a couple of times.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, we've asked all of our listeners, anybody who's watching, to make sure this week, donate $20. That's 10 for each championship that we've won in the SWAC. At minimum 20. Now, we put a bigger number out there for folks, but at minimum $20 donated to the Rattler Athletic Fund in the name of the FAMU volleyball program. And hopefully we can spur on a little extra donating fundraising that goes into the program, help the everything that you're doing, and anything that we can do to help support. We appreciate all your time. We appreciate you, and we look forward to the selection and the actual times. I think you said we anticipate to be going to Gainesville again, so that's a call to Rattler Nation to get out to Gainesville. We just need to know what time and what day, and we're looking forward to it. And so that's it, Coach. You have a happy Thanksgiving. What's a dish? What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish, Coach?
Oh, Allison was asking me that too, so it's definitely not turkey. I have to think what it is. So I wanted to honest that.
What is going on with everyone's hatred of turkey? Anyway, unbelievable.
I knew you would like it, Brian. So definitely not turkey, but I have to think which one is my favorite for sure.
Oh man! All right, Coach. Hey, well, whatever it is, I hope it's plentiful, and I hope you have a good time. And again, we're thankful for you, thankful for your program, thankful for everything you do for Rattler Nation. Tell all the young ladies, your coaches, we thank them as well for being such a great representative of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. So with that said, God bless. Take care, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving to you, and we'll talk again soon.
Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you. You too. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, let's take a short break, everybody, and come back with the final segment as we wrap up the show right after these words.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Melvin Online Women's Boutique.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
It's like a loot machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
All right, welcome back to the O&G Strike Zone. Brian, Kelvin, Kofi. Wanted to play a short snippet from Coach Willie Simmons's press conference on Monday. We'll see if we've got that queued up, ready to go. If not,
there's a certain sentiment amongst the committee that we were unworthy. What that's based off of, I couldn't tell you. I do know that it seems to me that when you look at it, and again, I don't want to make this a white black thing or a SWAC, MEAC, everybody else thing, but it's like when you look at teams from our conferences, it's like you look for a reason to not let us in, right? If I can just pinpoint one reason, compelling reason as to why they don't deserve to get in, we're gonna stick on that. And whereas the other conferences, you look for a reason to get them in. Right? A team loses 4 of their last 6 games, finishes middle of the pack in the conference. But you point to a week 1 win over a 4-win Navy team, right? That's justifiable reason as to why they got in. They're the 5th ranked, the 6th ranked team in their conference. They had an LPS win early in the season against a team that's won 4 games, and that overrides losing 4 of your last 6 games. And those 4 losses are all FCS losses. We lost a game to a Power 5 team that's about to play an ACC championship game. We turn around the next week, in the midst of the most turmoil that we faced in our program's recent history, and we laid the egg against Jackson State, right? Whereas everybody that I know, everyone I talked to spoke to the mental makeup of our team at that time, and they knew that we were not in a position to go out and play good football then. We reeled the guys back in, we regrouped, and we reeled off 9 straight. And so to me, and just in my career and just in my following college football, what you do later in the season carries more weight than what you do at the beginning of the season. That's just the way it's always been, right? That's why they don't release college football playoff rankings until week 6 in the season, right? So we're penalized for something that happened week 0 and week 1, not consider what's happened weeks 7 through 11 or 6 through 11. And to me, that's just, I don't have the words to describe it, because again, I don't want to make this, a controversial us against the world type of mentality, but it just begins to speak to that position that it seems like the committee was finding a reason to not let us in
And there it is. Coach Simmons could not have been any more clear in his thoughts. And that was his very first press conference on Monday morning. Now, he also had some comments, which I think you've seen in some other shows or at the SWAC media or SWAC press conference. Of course, he had his own coaches show on Tuesday. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, look, there's two thoughts here, and then I know we're short on time here. I don't want to see what Coach Simmons has said over that 48-hour period be lost, because I do feel like there needs to be some support behind him from somewhere. I don't know if it's interim AD Mike Smith. I don't know if it's future AD Tiffany Dawn Sykes. I don't know if it's Dr. Larry Robinson. I don't know if it's the mayor of Tallahassee. I don't know. It could even be the commissioner of the SWAC. But somebody needs to stand behind the words of Willie Simmons from an administrative level and say that what was done is inconsistent. It shows there's a history of inconsistency, and it needs to be addressed. You have penalized the SWAC, thus now you penalize FAMU for not being a part of the round table of the FCS. That's really what this is. We are penalized because we aren't at the table, because we have chosen to do our own thing and create a playoff system, okay, because of financial needs and concerns and what we've recognized back. Hey, in history will show you, you've regionally screwed with us being SWAC and MEAC. You screwed with us and you sent us to far off lands to play against people that we shouldn't beat because we can't take our huge fan base out there, or at least so you think. And then we have to go play in far off places, even when we've had good teams and good programs. So we recognized we were getting screwed, and that's why we got out of the FCS playoffs, to be honest. For those who don't know, for those who just entered the HBCU space over the last 5 years or the last 3, that's really what the history is. We all know it because we've seen it. FAMU knows it because it happened in the very first championship when FAMU was a part of 1AA. So somebody from an administrative, now with that said though, I don't think that's going to happen, fellas, because what's coming up here for the SWAC is what is supposed to be the SWAC's focus at this point. SWAC championship game, Celebration Bowl. If we talk about this at this point while it's hot and fresh, it takes away from that other thing. So I don't know. That's just my thought, and I know we're short on time. We'll talk about it in another long form podcast, maybe even next week's show. But let's go final thoughts about this whole thing in as short in a little 2-minute segment if you can. I'll start with you, Kofi.
Well, in a nutshell, I mean, you hit on all of the necessary points. The reality is, let me hit one of the first ones, which is Dr. Robinson should have made some sort of statement. It would have been nice to get a statement from A.D. Smith to back what Coach Simmons said, and to refocus our mindsets towards the future. You know, it's always about vision, where we are now, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. It's also important for us to understand what our goal is from game one, which is to, at the beginning of the season, which is to win the SWAC and get to the Celebration Bowl. That's job one for us. That's what we said that we wanted to do. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. So understanding that aspect and the point of it, let's get it. But what needs to happen, what is the solution, and what's the end all? At the end of the day, for both the SWAC and the MEAC, if a second place team is eligible for the playoffs, and we still have eligibility or eligible teams. Let's say Howard and NCC are both 10-1, right? They're both 10-1, and the second place team has an opportunity to go to the playoffs. If we still have eligibility to go to the playoffs, we need to have representation at the selection committee table. Otherwise, they're going to continue to do what they've always done, which is overlook our teams, overlook the value of football, or the level of football that we're actually playing in the conference. I remember when Appalachian State played South Carolina State at home. I think that was the Curtis Pulley year. I think it was 2008. In a year where Appalachian State had already won the title, they were going for a back-to-back title. If South Carolina State makes that freaking kick, they literally probably could have won the national title with South Carolina State, but he didn't make the kick. They ended up losing by a couple of points to a team that ended up winning the national title and also beat the University of Michigan. So they really, 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 need to address the clear bias. They need to address the criteria for us making the playoffs, and they need to address where what the rankings and how they're coming up with this level of criteria, and be able to properly justify it. And there should be more accountability there. It's just like me having a conversation about you and you not in the room. That's ridiculous.
Hope you don't do that. I hope you don't do that.
And it's disrespectful.
It is. It is. Kelvin, your final thoughts.
It's about inclusion and about justice. What's right? I think it's a reason that Appalachian State, Georgia Southerns of the world, Troy's, everybody, Jacksonville State, is a reason why those squads are leaving. The southern part of the FCS is abandoning ship and going D1, FBS. And I think the FCS schools remain, James Madison too, but the schools that remain are missing the boat. And if they're not careful, the boat is going to sink. Having the HBCU expanding and making sure they have HBCU representation at the table when they're making these decisions, as well as the attendance leaders for FCS have been HBCU for years. All right. If you want to have some viewership in major markets, if you want to get some more corporate dollars, if you want to make FCS playoffs actually monetize, right, where it's actually making some money for the schools and for the FCS and NCAA, then it probably would be really smart, honestly, of the FCS to make sure that they include HBCUs, frankly. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna say a hard truth. Not many people give a damn about them winning the FCS title once it's over, right? Not many people watch. So expanding that pool, having that inclusion, first, it's the right thing to do. Secondly, HBCUs have proven that they're capable and can, especially FAMU. Our history is our history. We got a different playoff history. We have a national title. All right, we've won games against in the playoffs. So all this bias about getting in the playoffs, that falls on mute ears for our fan base. But I'm just saying, in general, if they ain't careful, HBCUs, we might end up doing our own thing anyway. Because we pulling 55,000 at our classics, right? We get $1 million for the Celebration Bowl. So, I mean, FCS, you better wake up.
Mess around and we end up doing what the Ivy League did and just stepping away from y'all altogether. That's going to do it for tonight's show. We want to say, again, thanks to Stan Becton, NCAA.com. Go make sure to check out all his stuff there. Go and also thanks to Coach Gokhan Yilmaz, head coach of our championship, 2-time SWAC champions volleyball program. The selection show will be this upcoming Sunday, and we'll find out whether we'll end up playing Florida again in the Gainesville region or regional, or whether we are playing somebody else. It's been, I'd love for us to play someone other than Florida, but it is what it is, right? But we'll just worry about that. Congratulations again to the FAMU football team winning the Florida Classic. We'll talk about some of the news and notes next week regarding some of the guys who have already started entering their names into the NFL draft. I saw Isaiah Land did that. We'll talk about the finalist awards. I know Xavier Smith is part of the Walter Payton finalist list. So we'll talk about
men's
all
basketball.
that. Yes, men's basketball got their first win of the season against Albany State. So congrats to them. Now they got to go out on the road and collect some checks and win some games next week, I believe. Our women's basketball team, yeah, good job. That's all I'm gonna say there. I'm gonna leave that alone, boy. We don't mess with the Lady Rattlers this year. You don't want none. That's all I know. You don't want none from these girls this year. I love the. I want to make sure I say this right. I love the fight. I don't love fighting. I love the fight. I don't love fighting. I got to say that right. Okay.
Don't start none, won't be none.
There you go. Not this year.
The alma mater say that we fight and win whatever the battle be.
Right. And if you roll up on a Rattler the wrong way on the basketball court, you know you're gonna get these two fangs like this. And you know what we do, Rattler Nation. We strike, and strike again if you come at us wrong. Hey, everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving. Make sure to eat some turkey. It's good for you. I don't care what
we
the rest
ain't
of you
eat no
guys say.
turkey.
Put some gravy on it. Get some stuffing, some yams, collard greens. What?
Cornish hens.
Oh, my God. It's time to... Are you shaking your head too, Cornish? Oh, Lord heaven.
Cornish hens is good, but we doing Cajun this year. We ain't doing
Cajun turkey. You knew Cajun turkey? Cajun turkey.
We ain't doing it. I done told you we not doing it. We not doing traditional.
I want to... Man, anyway, that's it for tonight's show. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat well, be well. When you see a Rattler in the street, put two fangs up, and then you see somebody come at you wrong, just strike, and strike again. Good night, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Peace out.